me? I can't hear anybody. All right, everybody, you have a chat box at the bottom. Can you just type yes if you can hear us? Just type chat yes if you can hear us at the bottom. Yes, I got a few. Good. Clear it out. All right. Okay, so it's 1:35 now. We have participants from Australia, which is about 3:30 now. Malaysia is 1:30, and there's a couple from Vietnam, Thailand, and Sri Lanka. Can you just type where you're from? If you are from Thailand, you just type Thailand. You are from Sri Lanka, you just type Sri Lanka, so we know where you are from. So Malaysia, you type Malaysia, where are you from? Can I know? Sarawak? Yeah, we have one from Sarawak, East Malaysia. Malaysia. I'm out from Malaysia. I'm from Malaysia, Sarawak, Sri Lankan. Yes, welcome Sri Lankan. And Kuantan, yep. Okay, a few more. Good. So our Vietnam friend and Thailand friend still haven't come in. So it's about 1 hour earlier. So, all right, no problem. Right, so before we begin, do you mind, everybody, if you can on your camera, we can have a group photo together. Everybody, do you mind if you on your camera so we can have a group photo so that we know we are talking to a human, not a robot, right? Wait, more. Right, wait, let me take a few screen, few more. 1, 2, 3. Okay, very much. Thank you very much. Right. First of all, thank you for coming to join us our webinar today. Start your new journey in music technology and music teaching. So our speaker today, Miss Helen Little, all the way from Australia. She will share her vast experience, some tips as well, and then some information. So if you have any questions, you can put at the chat box at the bottom. So after the end of the session, we'll go one question one by one later on. Okay, right. So I pass the floor to Miss Helen.
Good. Well, for you, it's still morning for some of you, and that's for the Sri Lankans, and for the Malaysians and myself, it's good afternoon, and it's lovely to see everyone here. Today, we are specifically talking about the certificate of teaching in music. I'm going to share a screen with you, very much thanks to Brad Eustace, who actually has put together a PowerPoint. And probably far more to the point is the fact that I can actually have learned how to share the screen. Now, for those of you who know me, that's quite an achievement, okay? I'm the wrong generation. So there's where I'm going to go, is here, back to this one, and I'm going to share, I hope. Now, can you all see that?
Yes, can, yes.
Good. Well, okay. So that's who you're talking to. And I'm the Chief Examiner for the Australian Guild of Music and Speech. And we're very keen. I just want to start with who we are. Who are we? Well, the Guild actually started in Australia in 1969. Okay, I'll keep this very short so that we get on to the other important stuff. 1969, we're definitely Australian, and we're very proud of the fact that we are able to encourage participants to join us from all over the world at the moment. We have to develop speech and music education and skills, and we have good standards, but our aim is also to promote and encourage people to perform. This is our board of directors at the moment. Brad is the chair, Bradley Eustace, and he's the one who's very clued in on all the technology and things. And he is he composes music. He also works for Yamaha. So he has a lot of interest in all areas of music and is very keen to participate in developing the Guild. I'm the deputy chair as well as being the chief examiner. And Denise Collins, many of you have met Denise, who is also one of our examiners, works as our secretary, and a vast amount of experience. And then Malcolm Smith is our treasurer. He also runs Keyboard Kids, which is a very big business in Brisbane around the schools. So there's a lot of experience there as we go. So I'm going to keep this quick so that you just get a bit of information. We have an academic advisory committee. Many of these are specialists in their instruments. Andy Firth, Liz Firth, they very much clarinet saxophone, Dr. Kay Hartwig in piano. We have other people. We have Jan Skinner in our speech, also part of the academic advisory committee, Bryce Leader on guitar, Denise flute and vocals, Christina Kay, she's been our syllabus editor, Malcolm on piano and particularly modern piano, and of course Brad and myself on various instruments. So that's a quick rundown. If you have any questions, I'll certainly go back. Events, we've been very fortunate. We've just had our first international virtual festival. Some of you have participated in that, and I hope you enjoyed it. Again, the aim is to encourage, always to encourage participants. And we were very pleased with our first effort there, and we hope that it will continue in future and encourage students to perform. Sometimes they perform exam pieces, sometimes they perform something else altogether, but they get feedback on it. So a very positive thing as we go. We also had our first graduation since COVID. As we all know, COVID has been a little bit disruptive, shall we say. So we decided we would have our first major graduation since then. And we were very happy with the numbers that came along and were presented with their certificates. We did this one in Queensland. We actually used, those of you who know Somerset College, we did it there, and which is a lovely place to hold it in our beautiful Great Hall, which we filled to capacity, which we were very pleased with. Now, going on, as I said, if you have questions, just put them in the chat. We'll look at them all at the end and make sure we get to you. So exams, obviously we're an examining board, and our exams, we go right from a step 1 exam preparatory for the babies, right through to a fellowship exam. And there's exams all the way through in each of the syllabi. We have, you name the syllabi, we've got it for which instrument. And we go right from step 1. We have grade 8. We have our C.Mus, then we have a right through to our fellowship, and we also have at the same time linking up with the with the C.Mus, the A.Mus, and the L.Mus. We now have the teacher of music, which we'll talk about in a moment. That's what we're really going to talk about. Our new syllabi have been all revised. We spent, I would say, months, actually. We did it very quickly, but tremendous amount. I think we did over 2,000 pages of revision of syllabi so that they would all be, they're all freshened up. They're a little bit more open. So what happens, you can see exactly where your marks are being, where the marks go. For example, we have, this is the various levels, but then what happens is we go, here's where the marks within your 100% for each of them go. That's actually in the syllabi, so you can see it as you go. There's so much percentage for each. There's also, here's a kind of a marking band to give you some idea. So what happens is, if you're going to get 17 out of 20, this is what you will get. If you do this correctly, this is what you will get. And that goes through. That's actually in the syllabus as well, at the front of each syllabus. So everybody knows exactly where they're at. And I am doing this very quickly. I apologize, as I said, any questions, we will get onto the more important stuff as far as what we're here for today's webinar. So there's our marking guide. So you can see just where all the marks go for each of the grades. We try not to have too many NGSs, not grades, but we do have to maintain a certain standard. This is probably where we start today's webinar. Empowering your success is our passion. We actually want to make everything work. We love every one of those people you saw. We love our music. We actually passionately believe that every child should have, or every person should have the opportunity to participate in music. And this is absolutely an essential part of life. I send to some of my students when they first start, or to all of them, a thing about music in the world. And it says, where do you ever go where you don't listen to music? Everywhere you go, you get in the car, the radio's on. You, I don't know if it's the same over there, but here, you know when a particular television program is starting because there's specific music and you go, oh, that's my show. Music, of course, in movies, everywhere. There is nowhere where you go without music. And as they say, it actually reaches, they said music is the fingers that reach into our heart for our expression, our emotion. It is absolutely an essential part of life. So that's really, so now we're getting to the nitty-gritty of it though. We know this, we know that music is important. How are we going to get it out to people? I don't know about you, but when I first started teaching, I came straight out of university. I had a degree in performance. I actually had a degree in teaching, but not teaching music. And I had done a music major. Now, all my music was based on performance. Performance doesn't teach you how to teach. It only teaches you how to perform. And those of you who've been teaching a while know it's two really different things to teach music and to actually perform. And there is still a problem with many of the university programs that so much of it is based very much upon performance. And then they come out and they want to teach. Now, I started teaching how my teacher taught me. So the answer is there were problems, and presumably I was one of the smarter children. So what happened is, therefore, so what happened was I actually learnt new things fairly easily. So what happened, I didn't find out what the problems were. I didn't find out how to deal at that point with a problem student. You know, this child's doing something and I'm going, what are they doing? Why are they doing this? That's not how I learnt. This is not what I've done. And I think we've all come across that. So we decided with much discussion that we really needed some new teaching certificates and diplomas. There are some out there. However, usually they require you to have been teaching for quite some time before you can do those certificates. So we said, well, that's not much use for the beginning teacher. And so we worked at it, much discussion, hours of it actually. And what we wanted to bring in was a certificate that built from so you're teaching beginners to teaching middle of the range and teaching to advanced students. So what we could do is what happens is we're introducing a course. The first one is the C.T.Mus. Now the C.T.Mus, the aim of that one is it will introduce young teachers or those who just want to freshen up their information, find out, get a piece of paper that says, yes, you're a good teacher. The idea of it is, though, it's things like setting up your studio. It's things like having a look at the basic philosophy, preparing the first 5 lessons. How are you going to set up your room so that A, you are comfortable in the room and so are your students? It outlined, have a look at exam programs to have a look at what you would teach. And we're looking at preparing lessons and pieces from beginning right through to grade 2. So the idea is it's a beginning step. You prepare lessons, you submit the lessons, you set up a teaching studio, or you show how you would set up a teaching studio, the room layout. Let's go to where it is. Yeah. The philosophy of teaching. You need to, I don't know what it is in other countries, but in Australia, you have to have a child safety policy so that you have to indicate, you know, how the children are safe in your particular area. You know, business elements, including setting of rates, invoicing, account keeping, all those things that when you come out as an individual, great performance certificate, nobody's taught you all about this. And I've seen many music teaching jobs fail, teachers fail, not because they didn't have the skills, but because they didn't have the wherewithal to do all the other side of it, you know, things, as I said, business elements. And you need to be able to do that as well. So we want to give people that platform. But at the same time, we're looking at what happens is that's your start. And then, whoops, sorry, guys, that should come. No, enlarge that. No, I've done something silly, but we'll go back. No. What we're doing, does anybody know how to do that? I've done something very silly. Ah, there I go. I can find it. Down the bottom. There we go, much better. So we're asking them to do things like outline the first 5 lessons, complete 1 exam program per grade from step 1 up to grade 2, include a list of pieces. As an examiner, so many times we will go into exams and there'll be 7, 8 children all doing the same level, and they all play exactly the same pieces. We want to encourage them to be a little bit more individual. We would like to see, it's nothing wrong with that, but it doesn't give them any independence. I know with my students, I might say, well, we need something of this kind, something of that kind, but then what we give them choices, and they perform better by making those choices. Now, we may guide those choices, particularly at the little level, but the idea is if we can encourage them to try different types of music, I send my students home with a book and say, choose one. And in that time, they come back. It may not be the one I've chosen, but they've done an awful lot of sight reading in that week. So things like this we talk about. You analyze the pieces that you're preparing, and you have any technical challenges that you think the students might encounter in those pieces, and how would you overcome them? And that would include discussing the importance of scales and exercises for developing technique. It might be through a book of technical exercises. I know many now do performance exams, but it is also important to have the technical skills developed. So then what happens is we go to, after that one, oh, sorry, I missed one thing there. That's, whoops, I go back, my apologies. So what happens is then you will actually go to into an exam. You do the performance exam, and then what happens is you actually do an exam, and you have part of that comes in as part of the exam. Demonstration, we look at you and say, here's a piece to teach out of that level. And we discuss, you know, the demonstration, discussion of technical difficulties and performance of the exam program. So they need to be able to perform the pieces that they're preparing. And then we throw them a couple of pieces that in that level on how to do it. Now, obviously, so that's the step 1. Then we go to an C.T.Mus., which is your associate, and virtually very similar. But what happens is we are going to, in this one, we're going a little bit higher, and we're going grade 3 to grade 6. We're covering those pieces in grade 3 to grade 6. And the C.T.Mus., again, how you motivate students, the place of music exam. So you talk about that. History and development of your instrument, be it piano, flute, guitar, whatever. So that what happens is you're saying, it's an important factor, how that instrument has developed and where it is today. Including in there schools and styles of technique, so that you're actually investigating, because sometimes one fits for one and it doesn't fit for another. And a complete exam programs, again, from grade 3 to grade 6 this time. And so then what happens is you submit a folio again, which is the first 3 sections, okay? And then, which includes, as you can see down the bottom there, comparing 2 schools. Then we go in, we have a practical exam that's worth 60%. And your practical exam, again, is very similar. You'll be asked to demonstrate the pieces. You'll be asked to, where am I? You'll be asked to demonstrate the pieces. You'll be asked to perform any technical challenges. We might look at and say, what would be the problem? How would you fix this problem? Okay, so that's the type of thing that we're looking at to do. And then if you want to, including how to teach oral tests, sight reading, and so on. We then go on after that, which I won't talk about today, to the C.T.Mus, which again, it will go from 7th grade and higher. So what we have tried to do is to break them down into smaller segments so that teachers who are very busy can do the first one, get that finished, then they may decide to do the second one when they're ready, rather than trying to jump straight in too high and finding that it is a little difficult to do all of those levels all in the one thing, and it's a very extensive program then. So that is what we're aiming to do. What we're planning to do as part of that, we have already discussed putting together even such things as a private Facebook page where those who are doing that can discuss with examiners just what they want to do, how they're doing it, how the progress is going, to give you and perhaps feedback between each and every one of you who are doing the courses. So that's the basis of it. And we're hoping, well, we already have quite several who are interested, and we hope that teachers will use this to either improve their teaching skills or actually start their teaching degrees after something like having some wonderful performance skills, which a lot do. So I think, Johnson, that's the basis of what we want to talk about. I've been through it very quickly, but I'm sure there are a lot of questions that will come up. Now, you have to ask questions because I will tell you now, yes, whoever went bottom right-hand corner, thank you, Kwan Young Yuli. Everyone who has some questions, I'm sure there's plenty, and I'd love to hear them because we would love to get people involved in this. We're very keen to promote and encourage music teachers as well as music students.
Yeah.
So can I get some questions, please?
Participant, if you have any question, you can drop on the chat box. Meantime, I received one from WhatsApp.
Yes.
Ms. Helen, can you, during the course, designing the lesson plan for beginner? So can you give some sample how it works, and because the resources material in Malaysia maybe varies from country to country.
What happens is that we are looking at, if you apply for if you put in an expression of interest, there is, at the moment, the cost is $600 Australian. However, we are looking at perhaps being able to subsidize that slightly and doing some mentoring. So if we can get back to people if they put in that expression of interest on how many are involved. As I said, we're looking at helping people to do this, not just throwing, that is actually the cost of the exam, and anything that we provide extra to that is purely for free. So it's a matter of if they wish to enroll, they then have 12 months to do the exam. So what happens is that will give them an option of requesting help or interest and having a look at some different things that we would help them with along the line, if that makes sense. So the actual cost of the exams involves helping them get ready, getting some information ready for that exam. But if they apply online, there is an option that there may be, we are looking at subsidizing some of those people.
Okay, we have another question. How long does it approximately take to finish the first teaching cert? Is the minimum certificate application for first teaching cert is diploma certificate?
I would suggest that the different people, different times, but I would suggest that the C.Mus certificate would take, if you're a new teacher coming in, I would suggest you've got to look at something you might take up to, on top of work, a year. I would say about 20 hours at least of actual work, 20 to 30 hours at least. Some may find that very easy, some as they've done some work beforehand. They may have pieces basically prepared. So the idea of it is that it would vary from person to person on how much teaching they've done already. But as soon as they've enrolled, they have a good 12 months to finish it in as they wish, as their time permits. And that's one of the advantages of it, is the fact that we all know that as busy teachers, sometimes you have breaks at different times and you get a heap done over the holidays, and then you need to go back and do some work and get less done as you progress.
Okay, we have another question from Kamini. What advice can you give when teaching a different able child?
Sorry?
Can you see the chat at the bottom? What advice?
Right, yeah, look, that is one of the we have different, we know that this is we like to be able to offer that option to everyone. We have frequently examined children with some form of ability or different options, and we're happy to do that. We like to know ahead. So what you need to do is you need to work very much on sometimes everyone's very individual, and that's what we're looking at in that aspect, and that's what our exams are very good at. They are very much flexible. So if they come and say to us, this child is, they have to prepare at that level, but if this child's got some issues, they need an exam, they need their teacher to sit in the exam with them. We have lots of options like that that are very helpful. The other side of it is, I often say to young teachers, it doesn't matter when you do an exam, whether you learn your music at 10 years old, 20 or 50 years old. The only thing that's important is that you're enjoying it and you're making some progress. So the worst thing I think you can do is to rush too much, because then you are building a very narrow column and they fall off the top, it topples very easily. So we encourage people to take their time, not skip exams, because we find that's when the children often have difficulties, because they haven't quite understood everything, same as skipping a year of school. So with children who have some disabilities, sometimes it takes them a little longer. Sometimes they're better starting at step 1 rather than starting at prelim and coming along slowly. And it's a matter of achievement. If they've done an exam and they've improved, then the answer is they have achieved. I have several children who have issues that are either mental or physical, different ones, and it's wonderful to see them succeed. So that's what we're after. And sometimes it's a matter of working individually with those students. Each one of those is very different. You do it a whole different way for every one of them. And that's what we're trying to encourage when we're doing these teaching certificates. What we're trying to say is we're starting to try and get teachers to look outside the box, to look at different ways of teaching, to see different ideas that may help them. And not just because I would think that nearly all the people here who came through music courses, they were the smart ones. So congratulations to you all, you're the smart ones, okay? But you were to succeed at your music. But what happens is you get children who, for one, may have no music at all at home. Sometimes you're flat out getting them to get an instrument. So they've had no music experience at all. So you have to work out a way to teach them. You have some who have coordination issues, and that's just your normal. Sometimes they have auditory issues. All of them can improve, but we have to learn how to teach them, because each one of them is different. Each one requires different skills, and that's what we're looking at. Yes?
Yeah. There's one, how the class is conducted, group or individual?
Both.
Both, okay.
Both. And as I said, we're looking at just perhaps putting together putting together a private Facebook page. I think is probably the most effective way. I know a lot of my students do this, where they put together, where it's only by invitation, and it's only those who are doing the course and some of our experienced teachers here. So they have people to ask the questions of, and they can also interact with each other. I know many of my students say they learned quite a bit from listening to others play, listening to other questions and ideas, both at school and in music. And so sometimes that's a really big advantage to have people of a similar interest together in a small group. We're looking at it, keeping it private and allowing people then to ask the questions they want to ask. We have experienced examiners and teachers who will be on there, who will be able to perhaps give some guidance as well. And we're looking at help. We're out there to encourage people to do this, not to cut people down and make their life miserable. What we want to do, the best way that we can provide good music is to provide good teachers. So that's what we're very much aiming to do, is to have good teachers for good music.
Okay. All right. Thanks, Helen. I received another text. This one is right. How can you encourage the young student to read?
To read?
The read music. They don't want to read, they copy what you play.
I know. Oh, look, we've all been down this path. I think my student, within about 2 lessons, I can tell there are some who are natural memorizers and some who are natural readers. And you can encourage the other half, but there will be some who will look at the music, put their head down and play. There's others who have their head up and they're reading the music right from the beginning. So it's almost a split right down the center. And encouraging reading is one of the things that is one half of the problem. So what I tend to do, I still use the 40-piece challenge every now and again, where I give out awards because they've learnt 40 pieces in a year. They have to learn it in a year. It can be easier pieces, not always at their level, because that will extrapolate further up. We learn songs, we learn Christmas carols, we learn anything I can find to get. Sometimes they hand each other music to learn because they say, oh, I like that piece he's playing, get you a copy of it. All of those things where they tend to download off the internet. Some of them I have encouraged to write their own music. They've got a little theme and we put some left hand with it. You know, I put a couple of chords underneath to make it work. And they're thrilled with that because it's Sophie's song or it's, you know, Chloe's lullaby, whatever the case may be. And they will be most happy to learn their music and their friends' music. Now, it doesn't have to be all the best music. Some of it I kind of go, oh, really? But the answer is encouraging them to read, to look for new music. I aim for them to learn a simple piece when we're doing the 40-piece challenge, one every week. And it can be something easy, 2 to 3 grades lower than where they're at playing. So the idea is that they build that repertoire. When we come to Christmas time, for Australians, when we come to Christmas time, we learn an awful lot of Christmas carols, which I refuse to listen to in January, may I add. But you learn a lot. You know, we've been through all sorts of pieces. There's some lovely little John Thompson books, whatever musical happens to be out at the moment, whatever's their favorite song, he has lots of little ones that come up with reasonable arrangements. So Dan Coates has lots of arrangements of easier music. I use anything I can lay my hands on, use it online stuff, online music, you know, that some of it's quite frankly badly edited. But the point is, if they're reading, then they're improving, and it's a learnt skill. It has to be practiced regularly. And that's hard to get them to do that because they memorize so quickly, the good ones. And you're going, you've memorized, don't play anything for them, make them play it for themselves. That's always a challenge. That was one of my first mistakes as an early teacher. played all the music for my students and said, oh, listen to this, the beginners. And I found out half of them were memorizing it by the time they got home. They weren't reading it. Whereas I needed them. As I said, the other thing I do, I always send my students home with a book and say, choose one. They have to then find out which one they like in that book. So the idea is they've actually sight read a whole heap of music before they actually choose a piece to play. So things like that. 40-piece challenge is very good. You can adjust that. It doesn't have to be 40, it can be 30, whatever your goal is. I did one year, and I'm sad to say we had McDonald's vouchers for those that got to 40 pieces, and they thought that was just fantastic. So, and we had a lot of pieces learnt. So, okay.
Okay, so the McDonald's, the carrot.
It was, most definitely. It's
Okay.
amazing what they do for a McDonald's voucher.
Okay, there's one more question. AGMS is for classical or pop modern music as well? I'm new to AGMS.
Right, it can be for pop. We have three for piano, for example. We have 3 syllabi. We have the traditional, and even within the traditional, you can include modern music. A lot of my students, for example, if they're the older ones in particular, doing a performance exam, might do a sonata, they might do a jazz piece, they might do a romantic piece, as long as it's a variety of styles. There is also, we have a light classical, which has a little bit easier syllabus overall as far as technical work is concerned, but has more popular light classical and non-classical. And then we have a contemporary syllabus as well. So that's very modern music, it's jazz. We have quite a few people who have written music who are part of that as well, and current composers. We are actually looking at developing some new books for grade books, which will have it's in the pipeline. They're not quite ready yet, but they will, and we hope that what they will do is the grade 1 book, for example, would cover pieces that would be suitable for all 3 of those syllabi. So you could have them you could use them in the contemporary, you can use them in the classical, and you could use it in the light classical as well. So the answer is you can actually use a variety of, and as I said, in the performance exam, it's piano. So the answer is you can use any combination, provided you are providing a varied thing. So you don't do 5 pieces by one composer because you're not providing 5 different types of music. But you might have a jazz piece, and you might have a piece from a musical. You might have something that's a popular piece elsewhere, a different style again, a pop piece. Then you might do, say, a romantic piece and a classic. It's entirely up to you, as long as the 5 pieces are basically fairly 4 pieces in the lower grades, 5 in the higher grades, are contrasting. Does that help?
Yeah, good. So in nutshell, as long as it's a beautiful music, whether it's classical, rock, pop, or jazz, it's all okay in AGMS exam.
Absolutely.
Right. Any more questions from the floor, from the participants? We have Dennis Collin join us also. She is also a major in flute and vocal. So if any flute teachers or vocal teachers you'd like to ask any questions, feel free. Right. No?
No, they don't want to. This is worse than my students sometimes. My students will ask me questions. I've noticed in Malaysia, they're slack at asking questions. They're terrible at asking questions, Johnson.
They're shy, but they will text
Shy?
They will text me privately. Right. So thank you everybody for your time to participate. Anything you want to summarize, Helen? No?
Someone's just asked.
Oh.
If level 1 exam, for a level 1 exam, you would normally have 4 pieces. If they wish to present 5, sometimes it can be a little short, so you add the extra one. All you do is you put, well, those 2 pieces would go into one list, and you can decide which list, whether it's A, B, C, or D. So if you want to put 2 of them into list A or 2 into list B, that's fine.
Yep.
But for grade 1 to grade 5, it's only 4 pieces that are required, and it's grade 6 and up that requires the 5 pieces. So you got one more. Thank you, Nicole, for that.
Okay. So anything you want to sum up, Helen? If not, I will just round up.
No, I think the big thing, if they're interested in doing a teaching certificate, let us know. If you send us through an expression of interest, that doesn't commit you to it, but we can then follow it up with you and develop it from then. We are very, I suppose what it is we are very keen to encourage teachers, and teachers need support as much as the students. And we're very keen for that to happen, because it's two sides of the one coin. You don't get good students if you don't get good teachers. And that's what we're very keen to promote, and to help teachers become good teachers. We want to support them as much as we support the students.
There's one question. Does this teaching certificate include oral training? That
would, in your C.T.Mus, in the associate, the C.T.Mus is for your, we don't go into the oral training, we're getting you just started through the beginning things. And then in your C.T.Mus, there is an element for the oral training. We're actually developing at the moment a series of oral training things where people will be able to access them online. We're working with a group to put that into place. Again, a lot of this we've been developing to a great deal, and so some of it's just still in the pipeline, but is going to happen. And it's something, as a teacher myself, it'd be lovely to be able to look at my students and say, here it is set up for the guild. Here is, you can go and practice your ear tests online as well as what I've taught you. So that, you know, for extra practice, because we all know how difficult it is to fit into a lesson with everything else. So yes, but for the C.T.Mus, not for the C.T.Mus.
Right. So basically, the C.T.Mus is very good for teachers want to learn how to teach. It's not just a qualification to sit for pass exam.
That's right.
So like what Helen explained in the starting, even in Malaysia, I think same like in Sri Lanka, when a new teacher want to teach, they will just teach based on what the teacher taught them last time. So it may not work now because people have changed, technology have changed, the approach has changed. So going through the C.T.Mus course will open up you more choices, options, and know how to teach at a different group, and then of course exchange among the members. So I think this is a good platform for any teacher or new teacher wanting to know how to teach, not just for the qualification purpose, but more on the practical, so that you can test on your students, the guinea pig, the actual students, and from there, from experience, then you can slowly progress. Okay. All right. So any last, sorry, Helen, go ahead.
And if they do have any questions, we'd be happy to, you know, if they think of any afterwards, which is usually when I think of questions, feel free to email us. We'd be delighted to answer them as best we can. We're out there to help teachers. We're out there to encourage teachers. As I said, I'm always quite passionate about the fact that every child should have music, as is the whole board. And we are very keen, we've talked about it, the only way to have good music kids is to have good teachers, and they need support as well. So.
All right, so thank you very much, Ms. Helen and Ms. Danny Collins, for your time. And thank you, every participants. So we will end the webinar now. So if you have any question, you still can contact us, or want to know more, you can always forward messages. Thank you very much.
Can I just say thank you to Johnson for organizing this? Much
appreciated.
Yes.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.